Hello everybody, hope you're all well and thanks very much for all the support with my videos, and I'm very grateful also for everybody who supports me through buying me a coffee as well. Today I want to speak about the hate speech legislation, a huge attack on our basic freedom of expression that the Irish government has been trying to push forward for the last number of years. Now currently it's stalled in the Senate. A number of months ago Catherine Martin said that they want to progress with it in the next number of months, so we'll wait and see how this develops in the next number of months. But again, in the last few months, the Irish government has been preoccupied with the immigration chaos and looking to respond by bowing down to Brussels to push through the EU migration and asylum pact, bow down to their masters and bureaucrats in Brussels rather than serving the citizens of Ireland that they're, inverted commas, elected to represent. But this bill is a huge attack on our basic democracy, because we've also seen how disconnected the political establishment were in the last few months with the referendums that cost over €23 million, money that could be far better spent on basic needs for people in Ireland. But of course they've plenty of money to spend when it's public money for their nonsensical referendum that they were comprehensively defeated in. So now the hate speech legislation is still on the agenda for them, and this is the Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence or Hatred or Hate Offences Bill 2022. Now already on statute books there is an incitement to hatred law from 1989, which is an offence to communicate threatening or abusive, insulting material that is intended or likely to stir up hatred against a group of people because of colour, race, nationality, ethnicity and a few other factors as well. So this is already on the statute books, but now they want to push forward harsher restrictions. So the thought crimes and thought police are coming forward with this new draconian legislation, because it's also fascinating and eye-opening when you consider in Ireland the attacks on people speaking out, and they're trying to tackle the so-called hate speech through the internet, because Ireland has so many tech giants in Ireland with the European headquarters here because of tax haven rules. Here I am in the IFSC today, head of tax haven Ireland. And won't mention the brass play companies. Better say nothing about that. That's the big dirty little secret, the corporate tax state here in Ireland. But of course, companies like Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft, and many more have the European headquarters here because of tax haven purposes, and because they're trying to really contain dissent, because they can't push their narrative through the internet because it's democratised to a massive extent. Even though we know there is a lot of censorship, what's very important with this is the fact that it's opened up to more and more people to get their points of view across as well, rather than listen to the mainstream narrative. We know how compromised they are by being bought by the corporates, and corporate captured really in terms of pushing their narrative and push their agenda. We see it even in Ireland here with our own RTE, so-called public service broadcaster, in hock with the Irish political establishment every single time. Now it's also interesting with this bill as well, what they're trying to do is to clamp down on people speaking out and clamp down on dissent and freedom of expression, which is a cornerstone of any democracy. And remember, it was ordinary people that won our rights. No benevolent ruler gave us our rights. It was people of previous generations that stood up for our basic rights, to get a 5-day week, to get basic workers' rights, to struggle for our independence, struggle for our sovereignty, and struggle for our democracy. Many more previous generations of ordinary people stood up and fought for it. They weren't handed to us, and now they're trying to be eroded pretty quickly, and it's happened in quite remarkable speed and haste since the lockdowns. And we saw the huge attack on basic rights during the COVID lockdowns, and we're still waiting for that public inquiry in Ireland too. We won't hold our breath on that because it was due to occur earlier this year, but of course say nothing because the Irish political establishment want to cover up, and it's going to be a whitewash and lessons learned, and that's the usual response they're going to have with all these so-called inquiries. But this is going to have a huge issue in Ireland because there's no definition of hate, and it's also fascinating to know there's going to be criminal sanctions where there's no definition of what hate is, and it's the burden of proof is on the person themselves to prove it wasn't hate. Now hate, people would know, is a strong emotion. Many people would say it, even watching a football game or watching some sports event, and say I hate this team or I hate that team. but it's passing emotion that doesn't really mean anything on purpose. So again, where does it stop and where does it end? But again, there's no definition. When does this matter? So the burden of proof is on you or any of us to prove our innocence, rather than, and it's subjective really in terms of the judges and their views on what hate is or isn't, which is just ludicrous. More of the same nonsense we saw in the referendum. But again, it was 110 TDs out of over 160 that passed this and pushed it through. And now Sinn Féin are doing their usual flip-flop, probably getting more flip-flops from RTE, who profiting from the public purse to buy their expensive flip-flops for members of their staff. But they're doing a U-turn now and saying they're not really behind the hate speech legislation. So we'll wait and see where that goes with Sinn Féin, who voted for it. They voted for it in the Dáil. So this has been used in the last few days. For instance, there was a couple of attacks or threatened attacks in around the Phoenix Park in Dublin, and that was pushed forward by Barry Ward, who's a senator in the Irish Parliament as well, to say we need to push forward our hate speech legislation, which is just absolute lunacy. There's an incitement to hatred act there already, or bill, that can be, strengthened perhaps, move forward slightly, not in this draconian direction, having an Orwellian dystopian future where you're having a thought crime police really after us as well. And as well, not to mention what people could have on their phones, memes and stuff like that as well. So it's really wide open to attack on dissent, attack on political opposition, attack on critique. Anybody who has any different opinion to the mainstream narrative, that's wrong. That goes against the grain, so you can't say that, you can't think it. So a lot of it relies again on self-censorship. So people should speak out, speak up against it, and oppose it, and contact all their public representatives around this and demand that there's no hate speech legislation, because it is a move into authoritarianism. You have people like, for instance, the French philosopher Voltaire of the Enlightenment back in the 18th century said, if you make people believe absurdities, they can commit atrocities, which is quite right, because you could make something completely so ludicrous and so false that people generally, some could go along with it. Not because it's right, but because they think they could be silenced or smeared or cancelled or whatever if they don't, which is absolutely ludicrous stuff. You need to have a balance in any democracy where people have their rights, people can speak out. And this has been fast-tracked, for instance, and used for purposes since the events in Dublin in November last year, when the horrific attack took place on the young girl in Parnell Square. And then we had a fallout from that as well to say we'll clamp down on this, rather than dealing with the underlying issue, the immigration chaos that's impacting working class communities up and down the country, rural communities, with lack of services, lack of resources, lack of infrastructure, next to no integration, and all these other factors as well at play. But again, if it goes against the mainstream narrative, well, you better watch out. So no to the hate speech bill, and no to any of this nonsense that they're trying to push at us again, because it's just trying to silence people. We need people to speak out, speak against the injustices wherever they occur, and speak up for the needs of ordinary people here in Ireland as well. So from Dublin today, and in the part of Tax Haven Ireland, the IFSC, I'll say goodbye, and I'll talk to you all soon, and thanks so much for your support. Please press subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thanks to everybody who supported it. It's well over 5,000 subscribers now, which I'm very, very grateful and appreciative for. Let's keep it growing, let's keep getting the news out there to more people, and give people a real alternative to what's going on, and cut through the nonsense and spin and propaganda that they try and push at us day by day, every day. So I really appreciate all your support. I'm very grateful for all of your very kind and generous support. So from Dublin today, take care. See you all soon. Slán. Bye bye.